What's up everyone, today I want to show you something cool about parallel compression on drums. If you already know the topic, then you might think this is no news. You are just compressing the drums really hard so that they sound like just some clicky noise. Then you are mixing the dry signal to it so that you get back some of the natural flavor, and then you just get an overall more punchy sound. So what's the big deal, you know? And I want to show you that on the example of TDR Kotelnikov, because I think they just solved this in a very elegant way. But first of all, I want you to listen to my beat, and while doing that I will turn off and on the plugin. So if you listened closely, you must have noticed that the snare just sounded a little bit punchier, and that's exactly what you would expect from parallel compression. So why should you use Kotelnikov as a parallel compression compressor instead of any other compressor, you might ask? And I say that the answer to this question lies in these three knobs, which are all basically just different types of gain knobs. No shit, this is all just gain, just in different ways. And I will tell you now why that makes this compressor stand out from other compressors in a very useful way in regard to the workflow. In order to do that, I will start from scratch with a new Kotelnikov instance. So let's say you are on a track and you want to dial in some parallel compression. What you would do here is, first of all, you would set the slope to flat and put this thing to mono so that it doesn't do anything different on different channels, and also you don't need any of the pre-EQ stuff. Then you dial in the threshold hard and also the ratio so that you can get a very clicky sound. Only using the peak compressor here. You could experiment with RMS if you just have a different flavor, also with the soft knee if needed, but I usually just start with these settings when it comes to parallel compression. And then the next big step is to play around with the takt time, because that's where you set most of the flavor. You already noticed though that the signal became quite low in volume. And that's where the first gain knob comes into play, the makeup gain. Now you can turn up the makeup gain just so you can hear the signal a little bit better. And now you can actually really tweak the attack settings. Now these really low attack settings are very prominent on the claps in the background actually, because the transient is so short that the release time is actually also short enough to get the signal back up to volume when the end of the snare hasn't even faded out. So you get a little bit more of this clap bleed. You could go against that by turning up the release time, of course. And that would get you more of a punchy sound. But I don't want even that sound at all. I just want a little bit more of attack. Now we have an attack and release setting that sounds a bit more like you would have a rim shot instead of a snare. And if you go higher with the settings, it actually sounds more like a snare again. Also, you have to compensate with the makeup gain. Now let's say that you have found a setting that you like. Now the next gain knob is the dry mix knob. So I'm using that now to just find the balance between the transient punchy signal and the, well, normal signal. And when you think you have found something, you can actually use the second gain knob that is just on the entire signal, so dry and wet together, to match the signal with the bypassed signal. So you can think as this entire section as a gain section, even though every gain has a different function for you musically. Now we can actually turn on the signal again and tweak this. Oh, and by the way, just by having the bypass button right next to the out gain button, you just have it exactly at the place where you want to have it, because when you're using a compressor like this, especially in the parallel processing context, I would argue that this compressor was made for parallel processing because of this section. Then you just want the bypass button really next to your completely out gain knob and also near of the other gain parameters like dry mix and makeup. And I didn't even use the delta button here, even though it would definitely deserve its own video actually. But yeah, that is just something that I would wish more plugin developers to do, because that is, you know, you don't always need to have all of these types of gain in every single plugin. But I just see way too many plugins out there that either don't even have a gain out parameter at all, or it is just the wrong one, because it makes a difference if it's just a wet gain or an all of the signal gain parameter. And you know, just sometimes it would be cool if there were a little bit more options about the way you want to use gain. It seems like it's no big deal, but you can see here that if you actually have all these parameters for you, then you can tweak the setting with a much better workflow than as if you only had one gain parameter, or if everything was handled by the slightly faulty auto gain, which is something that I really don't like. And you know, it's not hard to implement these kind of things, and that's why I would highly suggest every developer to put a little bit more thought into gain. And also for all the users out there who just want to enjoy plugins, I would always advise you, when you are checking out free plugins and stuff, to check if they have nice gain settings, because if they haven't, then on longer terms you will be a little bit disappointed. Maybe it will make you feel like something is missing, but you can't put your finger on it, and I will tell you it is because of this, and that's why I wanted to make this little video